Chinese tourist was scuba diving in Indonesia when her expensive camera slipped from her hands. She immediately dove down to retrieve it. Before she could even breathe a sigh of relief upon reaching it, a shark suddenly appeared right in front of her. Later, her body was found at the bottom of the ocean at a depth of nearly 300 feet, and the underwater camera recovered alongside her happened to capture her final moments. This is the tragic diving accident at Kakaban Island, Indonesia, which we'll dive into today. Kakaban Island is located in East Kalimantan, Indonesia, part of the Derawan archipelago. It covers about 3 square miles. In the local dialect, Kakaban means hug. Satellite imagery shows that the center of the island is a mangrove-fringed inland lake. About 55 feet deep and slightly above sea level, the lake's calm waters are home to tens of thousands of stingless jellyfish from 4 different species. However, Barracuda Point on the other side of the island is a completely different story, wild and unforgiving. It's an offshore drop-off plunging hundreds of meters down, characterized by sheer walls, ripping currents, and frequent upwellings and downcurrents. These currents drag massive amounts of nutrients to the shallows, supporting a rich marine ecosystem. Notably, at the Kalapadua dive site, cold upwellings in the early morning draw rare pelagic thresher sharks from the deep sea to the shallows. For scuba enthusiasts, it's one of the few places in the world where you can spot them. On May 1, 2025, Zhang Xiaohan, a 30-year-old Chinese tourist, arrived in Indonesia with 12 other tourists and 3 dive guides staying at a resort on nearby Barracuda Island. Zhang held a Divemaster certification. While not an instructor level, a Divemaster is considered the first rung on the professional diving ladder. Earning this certification means a diver is no longer just a recreational hobbyist, but a professional who can assist with teaching, knows emergency protocols, and fully understands underwater risks. However, sometimes this expert label can create a false sense of security and cloud a diver's judgment. Around 8 a.m. on May 2nd, Zhang and her group went to Kalapadua hoping to spot and film sharks. They dove to the recreational limit of about 100 feet. When their bottom time was up, the guides signaled to turn the dive, and the team orderly made their way up along the wall. By 9 a.m., the group reached a depth of 15 feet and started their 3-minute safety stop, a standard procedure to help the body safely off-gas absorb nitrogen and reduce the risk of decompression sickness. That's when things went wrong. Zhang's GoPro slipped from her grasp and sank into the abyss. Whether she couldn't bear to lose the pricey camera or the footage she just shot, she immediately dove back down after it. A nearby dive guide swam after her. She managed to catch the camera at around 80 feet. But before she could relax, it slipped again and continued to sink. Just as the guide followed her down a second time, a shark suddenly appeared. Zhang seemed captivated by it, but the guide was running critically low on air. After a brief exchange of hand signals, the guide had to surface. Zhang never came back up. Realizing something was terribly wrong, the surface crew immediately called the police. The 3 guides grabbed local divers and went back down to search, but found nothing. The Coast Guard arrived by 11 a.m. Rescue boats swarmed the area, and the site was locked down. Search and rescue teams were deployed, but due to the sheer drop-off, extreme depth, and ripping currents, they couldn't find her that day. On May 3rd, the search expanded with speedboats and aircraft, with rescuers hoping she might have just been swept away by the current to another area. But that morning, the rescue team spotted Zhang lying motionless on a rocky ledge over 260 feet deep. This is way beyond recreational diving limits. It wasn't until 2:55 p.m., 31 hours after the incident, that a specialized technical recovery team was able to bring her body up from 285 feet. The initial cause of death was ruled as drowning. On May 6th, her family arrived to claim her body, and her GoPro was handed over to them. Due to the lack of video footage from the victim's camera, the detailed sequence of events cannot be verified. However, it is highly likely that she did not voluntarily dive to the 87-meter mark. All recreational diving organizations set 40 meters as the absolute safety limit. At this depth, nitrogen under high pressure strongly affects the brain, causing nitrogen narcosis with a sensation similar to alcohol intoxication. Simultaneously, the no decompression limit is very short, easily leading to severe decompression sickness. At depths beyond 56 meters, the oxygen that the human body depends on turns into a deadly poison. Staying there for even a brief moment will cause acute central nervous system oxygen toxicity. The victim will suffer convulsions, essentially leaving drowning as the only outcome. The most plausible scenario is that while at a depth of 30 to 40 meters, she encountered an extremely strong downward current and was dragged into the depths. During this process, due to air depletion, nitrogen narcosis, and oxygen toxicity, she perished at a depth of 87 meters. Although diving accidents can be attributed to various objective factors, the majority of tragedies stem from personal errors. First, right as the dive concluded, without surfacing for a rest interval, Truong Hugh Ham descended for a second deep dive, increasing the risks of nitrogen narcosis and decompression sickness. Second, in unfamiliar waters, she separated from her guide and did not have a dive buddy with her, leaving her entirely isolated when disaster struck. Third, her remaining air supply was insufficient to handle an emergency. When caught in a strong current, air is depleted rapidly. As she was swept into the deep water, the immense pressure completely stripped away her ability to save herself. Compared to cave diving, which has an incredibly low margin for error, recreational scuba diving is significantly safer. However, it is precisely this safety that causes many people to lower their guard once they have gained a little experience, forgetting that all scuba diving rules were paid for with the lives of those who came before them.